You're watching a Getting Started guide for Ocedo. Ocedo was founded because networking is hard. While devices and what they can do have kept getting better, networking has stayed pretty much unchanged for the past 20 years. Routers, gateways, switches, wireless access points, and the languages they speak haven't seen the same progress as our gadgets. This causes a lot of problems. So many of the things we depend on require connectivity to deliver their benefits. Ocedo makes networking easy. If you're watching this Getting Started guide, you probably want to set up your shiny new Ocedo products. So let's begin. Today, we're going to show you how to set up a head office and then extend the connectivity to a home office. We'll start in Ocedo Connect. From there, we'll bring online our head office using one of our gateways that has wireless built in. We're going to set up 2 wireless networks for our users, CyberCorp for our employees, and then CyberGuest for visitors. Once that's complete, we're going to go to our home office. The home office just uses a normal cable modem and provides a network to the LAN. We're going to deploy one of our access points into this LAN and use that to tunnel back to our head office. Once that's done, we're going to set up our corporate wireless network for the home user, so that way he can work remotely without having to rework or re-architect his home office to get connected. Let's dive into Ocedo Connect. Ocedo Connect is our central console where you can manage your entire network. Today we're going to manage the Cyberdyne Corporation, and we already have a login. We're going to log in with his name and password. Now once we're logged in, we're presented immediately with the dashboard. The dashboard gives us such things as a map, some critical events, our current appliances and what their status is, as well as if there's some alerts that we need to pay attention to. In order to get started, let's go over here to Organization and check out what's already been created for us when the account was made. We've already specified our site and where it is as a headquarters. And when we click on it, we can see the address information, the time zone, and the other location information. Now to get started configuring the actual network, we'll go down here to Network Zones, and we'll see that a zone has also been created as part of the folks at Ocedo provisioning our first company location for us so that we could log in. Now here, if I click this will allow me to change things like the settings for the zone as to the name, the IP range that it hands out, and some other advanced features. Now because we already have a zone created and the name is LAN, we'll just check the DHCP server information to see that it is indeed handing out addresses and is enabled. That way things that come online at the headquarters are going to get an IP here in our corporate network. Now the next thing we have to do is we actually have to go create our internet connection, because once we deploy our appliance into the site as a gateway, we're going to want to assign that internet connection to that appliance. So we'll go over here to Uplinks and we're going to create an uplink. We're going to call this something like Verizon Fios. We can click on Submit, and now we have an uplink. Now the uplink is not actually doing anything because it's not actually plugged into anything yet. In order to do that, we'll get there in a second, we're going to have to deploy our gateway into the network. So we'll go over here to Appliances, and we're going to go to Gateways. And there's nothing here yet because all we have is a company, we have a zone, we have a network, we have some gateway information, and we have an uplink. We're going to assign all that by deploying one of our appliances into the actual company. So all we need to do that is open up our boxed gateway, and on the bottom there will in fact be a registration number. That registration number is what we need in order to actually deploy the appliance. So in this case, I'm just going to copy and paste the registration number into my browser, and from there we're able to click the Add Appliance button, and we're going to register this hardware appliance. We'll just paste the serial number in, and we're going to say this particular appliance is going to be deployed at our headquarters. So we'll hit Register Hardware. Once our appliance shows us online, we need to change a little bit of the configuration to ensure that we tell the appliance what's plugged into its various ports cable-wise. In this case, we want to ensure to tell it that our internet connection is plugged into the WAN port, and our network connection for the local area network is plugged into one of the LAN ports. So if we click on it, we can go over here to Ports, and we're actually going to set this to use the uplink from Verizon that we configured in a previous step, and we're also going to set the LAN to be our headquarters LAN segment. That applies automatically. If we also go over here to Gateway, we actually want to tell that this particular LAN network should use this particular appliance as its gateway. So enabling that, we'll set the gateway of the G50 as the gateway for all the devices being handed out on the LAN. But we do want to make sure that AutoVPN is on. AutoVPN treats this particular gateway as the focal point by which it can reach other things in the company. We're going to do that in a little bit when we bring on our remote site. This is on by default. We're also going to set the particular location here, and we're going to say this is in the server room. Once we've done that, we now have a fully functioning headquarters. We're not broadcasting any wireless yet. However, what we do have is we have an internet connection, we have a LAN, and we can start plugging things into the LAN, and they would be able to get out to the internet from that point. Now, we've got this all set up, but what we need to do now is set up our wireless. The G50 has a built-in wireless modem. Now that we've made a few changes to the cables of this particular G50, it's going to take a second for its configuration to be sent down, applied, and the box will automatically come back online in just a few seconds. But first, while it's doing that, we're going to go set up our wireless networks and make sure that they're being broadcast by the built-in wireless modem inside our gateway. So we'll go over here to Wi-Fi, and we're going to create some SSIDs. The first SSID we want to make is one for our company here. We're going to call that CyberCorp. We'll create a WPA2 personal key for it, and I'll just enter the key really quickly. Once that's done, this network is now ready to be used, but we're not yet using it anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a broadcast. And the broadcast is actually how you associate a particular SSID with a piece of hardware that should in fact be broadcasting it out. We might as well create the SSID for our guest network so we can set it up at the same time. So we'll call this CyberGuest. We're going to create an open network because we're going to allow our guests to self-register themselves using our captive portal. Going to click Submit on that. And now before we can broadcast it, we need to go down here to Broadcasts in order to actually set them up. So let's go on Broadcasts, and we'll create a new broadcast. And we're going to say that at the site headquarters, we want to broadcast the SSID CyberCorp. And we want to actually make sure that that zone is broadcasting into our LAN. And we're going to hit Submit. Now we also want to set up a guest network at this location. And to do that, we actually have to create a zone for these guest users. They're over here under Zones. And to do that, we have to create a new zone, and we're going to call this something for the guests. We're going to make it at the site headquarters. We're going to call this Guest, and we're going to enable that it's a guest zone. This way, we can actually have a portal for them, and we don't have to manually authorize each user to get on this network. Now that we have a guest zone created, we can actually go back to the network broadcasts of Wi-Fi, and we can actually create a broadcast for our network zone. Once we've broadcast the guest zone via our headquarters, all we have to do is enable the portal by clicking on it, turning on the portal, and at that point, we will now see a cyber guest zone here at our headquarters that our guests can onboard themselves using a portal, using SMS authentication, email authentication, and some other onboarding options. What we now want to do is we want to enable Miles to work from home. And the goal here today is that Miles already has himself a network at home that he doesn't want to change. He just wants to see our corporate network show up as something he can join to get seamless access as if he was at work. So to do that, we're going to go over here to Organization, and we're going to create a site for Miles's house. We're going to call this Home Miles. We'll call this Miles Home Office. And the city here is he lives in Fremont in the United States. We'll give him a time zone here so that everything lines up correctly in the logs. And at that point, we'll just click Submit. So now we have a site. We're just going to click it one more time, and we're going to add his actual house address to the location so we get some good map information. We're going to do that by entering him at 39191 Cherry Street. Once that's done, we click Submit, and now we have another site that we can deploy hardware into. So here under Network Zones, you can see that we actually already have a zone created because we created the site, and that's actually called Miles Home Office. And it's already set to hand him out addresses in the DHCP space of 172.16, but we're not actually going to use that. What we are going to do is change this to match his existing home network and then retransmit our corporate SSID to his location using an AP3 and a broadcast. So we're going to go down here into Appliances, we're going to go to Access Points, and we're going to add one. Now to register a hardware appliance, just like a gateway, all you need is the unique identifier off the bottom of it. So I'm going to cut and paste that in here, and I'm going to deploy that by saying it's at actually Miles's site. Once that's registered, it'll just take a minute for that access point to come online. It'll pull an address from its local network. You can see already that 192.168.1.50 has been given to it by his home network that's already in place, and it's going to start getting some configuration. The auto VPN indicator is also telling us that this is what's going to be used as the connection point to get that office and the things broadcasted by it back here to our head office. If I click on this, I can actually go over here to see that the wired connection is all automatic. We don't have to change anything. Auto VPN is actually already enabled. We don't have to touch that as well. And I'm just going to make a small location that says this is in the office of Miles. We've now completely set that up. And you can see the appliance is already online and ready to broadcast something. However, it's not actually broadcasting any networks. All we have to do to make that work is we go down here to Wi-Fi and we go down to broadcasts. We've already created the network that we want, the CyberCorp network. We just want to now actually broadcast it using that new hardware that came online. So let's create a new broadcast. We're going to say that we want to broadcast this at Miles' home, and we want to broadcast the CyberCorp SSID. We also want to map that CyberCorp SSID down here into the LAN again. Now if we hit submit, we now have a couple of different things that we can touch on. We now have CyberCorp being broadcasted here at headquarters, and CyberCorp also being broadcast here at Miles' home office. Now we get a couple of notifications that says the auto VPN is starting to go online and offline as the configuration is being pushed to both gateways. It won't take too much longer, and we'll soon see that on the map, not only do we have both locations, including Miles' site right here and our headquarters right here, but once the VPN comes online in a minute, we're going to actually see a connection between them to indicate that yes, they do indeed have a link, and then at that point, somebody sitting at Miles' home office would actually see CyberCorp as something they could join, which would tunnel them back here to our head office location as if they were in the building itself. We can see that there's a green solid line between Miles' home office and our headquarters. This means that we have an auto VPN set up. Now Miles will see the corporate network being broadcast from the AP3 at his house, where he didn't have to make any major changes to his home network. He'll be able to join that network, tunnel back to the office, and work as if he was physically sitting here. That's how easy it is to automate your network with Ocedo. In just a few minutes, we've brought on an entire headquarters, assigned it a gateway, created an internet connection, we've set up SSIDs for both a corporate and a guest network, and we've connected a remote site and allowed our corporate network to be broadcast from an access point in Miles' home without him having to change anything in his network. If you like this video, you should watch one of our other ones, or for a longer, more in-depth demonstration of what Ocedo can really do, join one of our webinars or give us a call. Thanks for watching.